How's it going, everybody? My name's Warner Fields with Fields of Profit. Today I'm here with my friend Dylan Sawyer, who is 18. He's already made over $1 million profit selling online, selling on Amazon. So I'm super excited to have him on the channel, have him share his journey. But you just want to kind of introduce yourself, maybe let us know how you got into Amazon, how you got into just reselling in general, because that's probably not the first stepping stone in your journey. We'll just kind of go
Yeah,
from there.
for sure. So I started in 2017. At first, I just had a passion for sneakers, Yeezys, Jordans, all types of stuff like that. And at that time, I realized that every Yeezy that was coming out was selling for pretty much double the price that it retailed for. So I realized if I can get a few pairs to sell, I can keep one for myself and be able to rock it for free pretty much. So it kind of started there. The first drop I actually purchased was the Yeezy 350 Blue Tints in December of 2017. And I got about 5 pairs, made about 1,000 off that, and kept a pair for myself. So that just sparked the opportunity. I was like, wow, this is really something here. So after that, I started to slowly buy more and more shoes. I was doing only like Jordans, Yeezys, and Supreme. I did a lot of that. I would go to the bathroom at school, do the drop on my phone, get
Yep.
a couple
I
items.
was, yeah, I was doing the drops in science class. I remember trying to grab the Supreme drops in science class.
That's awesome. I would always check my schedule and be like, okay, what class do I have Thursday at 11 a.m.? Like, I got to make sure it's a good class I can get out of. But after doing Supreme for a little bit, I realized that the money there was just not as good as it is in shoes. It's not as scalable. You're only going to get a couple items per release. So I jumped back into shoes and I started to look at more like Air Maxes, Air Forces, products that were on discount that I could just find for a good price. Usually I would go to my mall, go to like Foot Locker, Champs, just all the big stores like that. That was the first time I ever did retail arbitrage before even the Amazon days, just looking for discounted shoes that I can make money on. And at that point, it was in probably 2019. I was probably buying like 20 to 30 pairs a day, making decent money, doing releases on the side as well. And in 2020 is where things really, really took off. So that's when I got my first credit card, which is a Amex Gold card. And that immediately like 10x my spending power. So after I got that card, I really wanted to get into botting. I'd done a little bit of botting before, but never like running myself because I just didn't have the capital to do that. But after I got that Amex card, I started botting for myself. The first time I hit a lot of pairs was someone was actually running for me. So I got him Amex virtual cards. I connected him to my Amex rep and he's like, I'll run you on this bot called Dragon. And I went for like 15 to 20,000 and it would just destroy every Nike release. So the next day he's running me and there's a huge restock that happens on a bunch of like Jordans, a bunch of random stuff. And he ended up maxing my card in like 10 minutes, spent like 75,000 on really, really good inventory. And I was like, whoa, this is like really, really something here. Just made like 15, 20,000 in a day. And a little bit after that is December of 2020. And that's when I started to hit a ton of pairs and really got the ball moving with my capital.
Awesome.
It was like, damn, I don't remember the shoe. It was a Jordan 4 and a Yeezy 350 bread. And I did really well on those two releases. And after that, I started to get a couple more cards, built up my limits a little bit more. And in early 2021, I saw a decline of just botting, reselling shoes in general. The reason why it was inflated and so good at the time was because the stimulus money, Last Dance documentary, there's a lot of things
Yeah.
happening at the same time for that. So in early 2021, I was talking with a few friends who sold a lot of like Air Forces, Air Maxes, like the less hyped up shoes. And they were telling me about Amazon. They're like, the volume on Amazon is crazy. Like, look at this one shoe. They showed me an example. It was the Nike Monarchs. These are selling 7,000 times per month. I'm like, whoa, I'm in the wrong business here.
Yeah, I
So
see that a lot with people coming from the sneaker world. They'll be introduced
yeah,
to like Amazon volume. I think that that might be like the best hustle to come from to go
yeah.
into Amazon and just crush it. Yeah.
100%. I learned so much from shoes. Like in my first month on Amazon, it was like March 2021. I did about 100K in sales just from websites and products that I already was selling. I
Yeah.
already knew where to get them from. So I had a really easy jump into Amazon. I also had capital available. And once I kind of realized the opportunity and sold through a bunch of stuff that I bought like at outlets and other places, I was like, I'm done with releases, not touching that again, and just going full time on Amazon. So
Awesome.
later on that year is like maybe May, June is when I started to hit like huge numbers. Like I did like 360K in May, which was like my third month on Amazon, just selling a bunch of like Air Forces and random shoes. I was like, this is insane. Like this is where the money's at. And after that, it was June, July is when I started to do pools. That was the first time I'd sold anything other than shoes.
Back in the pool rush, yep. I was
Yes.
jumping on that a little bit, but probably not at the scale you were at. I was just anytime I'd see him at the grocery store, he'd pick it up. It's an easy $500. Like, yeah, that
Yeah.
was the golden era there.
That's when I got my Sprinter and I would do Walmart in-store pickup and I would just go do order pickup on the app and just order every pool
Yeah.
in Georgia. I would check it early in the morning and secure all of them and just start driving all day pretty much. This is during COVID too. And my school is not prepared at all for COVID. So we were only having like 1 or 2 classes a day. It's like an hour worth of schoolwork. So I could just be in the car, put on the Zoom, not even turn on my camera, I just work all day. So that was another really good like opportunity that happened like while I was really getting into like my stride of like making a good amount of money and starting Amazon. COVID happened at a perfect time for me. And fast forward a little bit past pool season, did a good volume there. And I jumped right back into shoes. 2021, I did really well. Black Friday, I did like probably 80,000 in sales one day, doing a lot of shoes, merch fulfilled. That's still my highest ever sales day and probably will be for a while, just because the inventory I had, I sold it all like in a day. Like it was all very, very fast moving.
Which is fun, but then you see the price go up like
exactly.
I could have made another $1,000, $4,000, like whatever it is. Like, yeah,
that's
awesome.
exactly what I realized, man.
Yeah.
I was like, if I just spaced this out a little bit better, I could have made a lot more money. But I learned a good lesson there. After that, I started to do a little bit more different products. So coming into 2022, I was doing more clothes, accessories, stuff like that. Still doing mainly shoes. And at the end of 2022 is when I kind of realized that the shoe opportunity is just not as good as what it used to be. And I realized how many return pairs of shoes I had. This was like a big like turning point. So I was having my employee do end of year inventory, and I wanted him to count how many shoes that I just put to the side that I got back from Amazon. I was thinking it was going to be like 600 or 700, and it was like 1,200. Like it was like way too many. And I was like, damn, this is a problem. At this time I was in the warehouse too. I forgot to mention that. So I was in a 4,000 square foot warehouse from January 2022 to June of this year. So a few months ago.
Awesome. What made you leave the warehouse? What was the decision there?
So it was just too much work, honestly. Like it just took all my time away from sourcing. I was just managing employees, overseeing operations, and even helping prep sometimes, where it'd be like a huge delivery where we get like 3, 4, 5,000 units in, and I'm sitting there putting labels on boxes. I'm like, damn, I shouldn't be doing this. Like it's also just like a 20-minute drive there and back. That's another good amount of time that's spent. And one of the main reasons, honestly, is that I'm in a tax state. I'm in Savannah, Georgia, 7% tax on pretty much everything. So a lot of the stuff I was paying way too much money for when I could have just sent it to New Jersey or Delaware or any one of these tax exempt states and saved a lot of money.
Yeah, I think that's a big misconception. People would probably have hearing your story, like having the big warehouse and all that. Like, so what are you doing with your inventory now? Like people watching this video, can they do the same thing?
Yeah, you can definitely do the same thing. I send to all prep centers now. I have one in New Jersey and they also have a Delaware location. And that's actually my partner for my group's prep center. So I'm very close to him. He actually did some of my packaging when I was doing Yeezys and Jordans as well. So I already had a good amount of trust with him. And I send literally everything I buy to him and I don't touch any products.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's the way we structure things. Like you're talking about, like if you have the inventory yourself, it's just way too distracting. Like as you're really trying to scale, you've sold what, over $10 million revenue by now?
Yeah, I did like 7.5 mil on Amazon so far and like 2.5 before Amazon doing shoes.
Yeah. So with all that, like you can't be selling that much and still seeing and touching the products. And that's just like, something that will slow down a lot of people. So like for that newer Amazon seller, they're watching this video, like when is the right time to jump in and get a prep center?
I think if you're in a tax state and you're paying sales tax on all your items and putting in a lot of time packaging, after you do your first couple shipments just to learn how the process works, I think you should be looking for a prep center pretty much immediately after that.
Yeah, I agree. Some people say like you gotta wait, like you gotta put in the hustle or whatever. Like, I mean, if it doesn't make monetary sense, then like make that early jump.
Exactly.
Yes. So loving the zoom out on the story there. So also as a note here, you were 12 when you were like big into like starting this all out?
Yeah, I was like 13 when I got my first products to sell.
Yeah, I'm doing the backwards math here. So that's crazy. So what are the parents thinking of this the whole time? Like just now 18. So yeah, we're what are the parents thinking?
At first they just didn't really understand it very much, but now they're extremely supportive. Like once 2020 came around and they saw like a lot of volume, a lot of profit, and just like the shoes in hand, like when you're just doing a couple Supreme items a week, they don't really think it's going to turn into anything. But once it's like serious volume, they're 100% on board and help me with a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've been lucky to not really been doubted by the parents too much either. And then I know it's like a very classic like reseller story that like you gotta stop reselling or like whatever it is. But I'm glad to see they're a little supportive as well. Were you hauling stuff into the house all the time? Like you're filling up the house with shoe boxes and
it was crazy. Yeah. Like it got bad at one point. It was like Christmas time 2021 21 where it was like over 1,000 pairs at the house at all
Yeah.
times. Like it was getting crazy.
Yeah, December 21 was the year that my parents started charging me rent for for using their house. They're like, "All right, you're banging up the walls and all the boxes are coming in like." So I got to pay them a couple $100 a month still now. So yeah, so going from botting world, all that kind of stuff. I'll probably keep it a little bit more Amazon focused for this video. People watch this video, they probably maybe not even source their first product. Like, what's your go-to method to source products if you're a beginner, and how does that differ from what you're doing at 10 million scale?
Yeah, so in the beginning, I really like reverse sourcing, and I still do reverse source, especially when I'm looking for a new category, new brand, something new that I haven't done like much of before. When it comes to Nike and brands that I know very, very well, I'm doing pretty much no reverse sourcing anymore. I pretty much know like all the listings that are moving well. And if I just go through like an online website, I can scroll through like very, very fast. I can look through like 50 products a minute and I can just see like, okay, yes, okay, no, just because I have that experience. But in the start, you have to put in a lot of work, reverse sourcing, checking out like what products are selling well, what aren't selling well, so that you can get an eye to manual source more efficiently.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's what people like. They'll like try to skip the storefront stalking or that kind of thing. Like you just develop that eye for like what, like you're saying, like what's a good product for me to look into. Otherwise, you're gonna be scrolling through the Nike website. You're looking at 4,000 products that are all on sale. You got no idea what you're looking at.
Exactly.
That's where a lot of people they'll load up Walmart.com. It's like, oh, time to source my first product. It's like probably not gonna find your first product loading up Walmart.com.
Exactly. It just takes so much time when you don't know what to look for.
For sure. Yeah. So, at such a big scale, are you leveraging any team members? Do you have any virtual assistant? Like, what's your team structure like?
Yes, I have one virtual assistant right now who handles pretty much all of the admin work. And for purchasing side of things, I have my parents help out with purchasing just because it's sensitive information like with credit cards, stuff
Yeah.
like that. And you also need to have a US based computer because if you're buying and the IP address is from the Philippines or like some other country like that, there's a much higher chance of order cancellations. So I have two computers just for them to do purchasing on. For my VA, he does pretty much all the admin work. He handles like, let's say I put an order into my spreadsheet, he'll communicate that order to the prep center so they know what's coming in. He'll put in like what's been received. He'll add in my repricer minimums and maximums that I set on the spreadsheet. He does a lot of small like data entry, stuff like that to just take that little stuff off of my hands.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you got no product sourcing help?
Not at all.
That's awesome.
No.
So
Yeah.
I guess the next question in my mind would be like, when you're finding these products, you must be buying like hundreds, thousands every time you find a product then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So what are some of the like go-to strategies to get around order cancels that you tend to go back to? Because I know that's what a lot of people are going to be like, oh, I can't buy 500. I got canceled when I tried to buy 30.
Yeah, so one of the best ways of doing that is just using either PayPal checkout or gift cards when you're doing your orders. Most of the time when you get a cancel from a website, it's going to be because they just don't trust your payment. They think you're doing some kind of fraud if you're placing a $3,000 order on your first time ever buying from their website. But if you use gift card, it completely takes that risk off of their hands because they know that it's a legit person buying it. I rarely have issues with cancels with gift cards. And if it is, it's from a website that just won't sell to people who buy quantity. There are a good amount of websites like that, like Shoe Carnival's one, Bass Pro is one, where like if you buy 10 units, they're going to cancel it 100% of the time. And in my opinion, it's not even worth ever looking at that website again. There's no point of like sending it to a bunch of different addresses. And if they're not willing to sell you 20, 30 units in an order, it's not worth buying from them.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of people will kind of get stuck on that and keep trying to like hammer this website that's not shipping their orders. So like, when do you know to throw in the towel? When do you keep trying new stuff?
So yeah, good question. So I'll usually do my first order on card. I'll try like 10, 20 units. If that doesn't go through, I'll try again with gift card. I'll try less quantity, like 5 or 10. And if they keep canceling and I really can't get anything through, I'm pretty much done after that. Like I really don't want to spend a lot of time looking at websites that don't want to sell to me when there's like a list of like 5 to 10 websites that I buy from that will 100% ship to me every time, where I like never really have any issues placing orders or getting cancels. It's better to just focus more time on those websites.
For sure. Yeah. It's always the companies that are like actively going bankrupt too. It's like JCPenney bankrupt in 2 weeks and you try to give them $1,000. It's like, no, we don't want your $1,000. Like, I'm trying to keep you afloat here, boys. Come on.
That's so true.
So like the successful companies are shipping our orders all day long, and it's funny to see there. Yeah, so that's super valuable. I mean, myself, I might start to test out some more gift cards. We do a little bit, but usually just for like the margin differential there. So the next question that a lot of people are probably wondering, obviously making awesome money, but what kind of time commitment are you putting into this business?
Yeah, so I do this full time now, done with school. I put in honestly probably 8 to 10 hours a day. I usually take off Sundays completely, but a solid like 60 hours a week on average, I'd say.
Cool. What do those hours break down into? Like, what's your usual tasks?
Yeah, so I'd say probably 2 or 3 is gonna be admin work. Recently, I've been spending probably 2 hours a day just working on content stuff, like
Mhm.
shooting podcasts, shooting new videos, working on threads, and it's more time consuming than I expected it to be, but it's definitely worth the long-term effects. And main thing that I'm spending time on is sourcing 100%. I buy all the products, find all the deals for the company, so it's a lot of my effort that's put into that. But one thing I really believe is that like no virtual assistant is going to be able to find as good of leads as you are if you've put in years of experience, hours every day of sourcing. And usually the time I work goes down like outside of Q4. But right now, some days I'm spending like 6, 7, 8 hours just doing product research, trying to load up and get ready for December.
Sure. Yeah. So obviously you've been in the e-commerce game, Amazon game for quite a while now. What is something that you see a lot of new Amazon sellers getting wrong? What's a misconception that maybe you had before you started that is just completely not true?
I think right off the bat, just getting into a warehouse, doing all the prep yourself, that was a big misconception I'd had. I've always heard from other like big sellers that, oh, if you do it yourself, it's going to be cheaper. But if you factor in like how much time it takes to put in and oversee employees and how much sales tax you're paying, it really isn't worth it. And that's one thing that I wish I kind of did from the start. I wish I had just done a couple shipments to see how it worked. And then after that, just go straight to prep center, not deal with a warehouse, don't sign a lease for anything, and just pay for what you need instead of paying a high upfront expense. Because even if you're not selling, you're still going to have to pay that lease.
Right. Yeah. That's the thing people don't think about. Like, you have to be selling, I did the math. It's like 5,000, 10,000 units or more for it to even make sense for you to have a warehouse.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the prep center just makes way more sense. Paying dollar a unit, that kind of thing.
Mine was way too big as well. Mine was 4,000 square feet. To run it with like utilities and everything, it was like 5,000 a month, which is just too much, especially like doing shoes mainly. I would need to be doing probably 10,000 units a month wholesale to make it worth it. And I'm not at that point yet.
Sure. Yeah. So you got the admin VA, you got some buying help. You don't have any sourcing VAs though. Have you thought about, adding on the sourcing VA at all?
Yeah, I have considered that. I've had 1 or 2 in the past, but they honestly just weren't finding the quality of leads that I want to buy. So I do all the sourcing on myself. I'm probably going to bring one on in maybe January, February after Q4 is over and really like build them up from the ground up. Like spend every single day like getting on call with them, spending a couple hours a day looking over their leads, helping them out, putting them
Mhm.
onto coupons, websites, just really like holding their hand along that process. Because if you don't train a VA for like years and years, very hands on, they're never going to be as good as you are at sourcing. And that's one thing I think a lot of beginners mistake as well is to just doing 20K a month. They're like, let me get a sourcing VA right off the bat. And it's just, if you don't have it 100% mastered yourself, having a VA is not going to help you at all.
Yeah, I see that a lot with sellers who are just massively scaled. There's just no VA. Like, I'm just kind of just doing my
Yeah.
own thing. Like, although I bet you would find that it'd be pretty worth it. Like, that's something I'm super passionate about. Like, what went wrong last time you had a virtual assistant?
Honestly, I think it was just that I didn't train them well enough. They would
Sure.
just send like low quality leads, like stuff that like I would buy like one out of every 30 or 40 that they sent me. Like it
Gotcha.
was just stuff where it's like it's okay, it's a 10,000 rank item, but it has 0.5% of the variations, like just slow movers, stuff that wasn't very profitable, inconsistent keep a chart, stuff like that. But I'm sure if I put a lot of effort into one, I could get them really good at sourcing.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's like a lot of the typical stuff you'll see with like someone that you give a probationary week and just doesn't work out. Like, I think it's worth it for you if you like in the next couple weeks like bring somebody on for Q4, your
Yeah.
business, do what you think is best. But I bet you'd find a lot of value in it. Just
Yeah.
shooting a Loom video, like specifically just saying like, hey, this is the 500 items I was about to look through, or 200 items, or whatever it is. Like, here's how I'm going to do it. Like, you take a second, you take a look, and then you can just kind of glance over what they're working on. But yeah, like you're saying, like it does take a lot of work. That's what people don't think about when they're bringing on new team members. Is in the short term, you're doing way more work because you're still
Yeah.
doing what you were doing plus helping them. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of that to it. Yeah. So since you've been able to scale pretty well on Amazon, what is one thing that even though you had an awesome start, what's one thing you had to stop doing in order to scale your business further? I know we talked about the warehouse. Was there anything else you had to cut back on that actually grew your business?
I think purchasing is a big one of those because there's some websites where I'm doing 10 max quantity per order. And if
Mhm.
I want 1,000 units, placing 100 orders is going to take hours, especially if you're using gift cards. It could take 5, 6, 7 hours to buy each gift card for each order, then place the order, put it into the spreadsheet. It's really time consuming. So if you have someone that you trust to do purchasing for you, that takes a lot of time off your hands when you're at that big scale.
Yeah, for sure. That was a big one for me as well. Like, I've always just hired friends and that kind of thing as well. Like, it's just such a
Yeah.
big advantage. Not everyone has that, but the nice thing is you can pay pretty well because they're spending a whole lot of money. Like, they're American, they're talented, so like pay our buyers a pretty pretty good salary. They work a couple hours a night. It's a nice little side hustle for them. So yeah, maybe a couple of you guys watching this video is like, oh, I've got a buddy who might want to make 30 an hour or 20 an hour, like just swiping a credit card. Like,
Exactly. I used to have my warehouse employees do purchasing, but now that I'm out of the warehouse, pretty much no employees other than VA. And then my parents will help out for a few hours a week doing like purchasing, little like corporate admin stuff like that.
That's awesome. Yeah. So another thing that you've talked about a good amount that I've never really dabbled with a lot, I've been a little scared of it, is seasonal products. So what is your strategy for seasonal products, especially going into Q4?
Yeah, so in 2022, that was the first time where I really tested out a lot of seasonal products and different categories. I hadn't really sold in like tools and home improvement. I hadn't done a lot of volume in grocery. So I did a lot of experimenting last year with like chocolates, advent calendars, decorations, like all things Christmas that you can think of. I pretty much tried it out. And one thing to note there is you need to make a spreadsheet with every item that you're buying, every like type of category. So advent calendars, let's say, for example. So item like that, it's very, very seasonal. You're going to need to have it sold by December 1st, December 2nd, because people are buying it to use through the entirety of Christmas. So you need to make a list of when you need to buy that product, when you need to have it checked into Amazon, and when you need to have it completely sold out. So doing that helps you avoid making mistakes of like holding on to an item for a little bit too long, which I did last year. I made that spreadsheet in January right after Q4. Another thing is take notes of what does well. Like a lot of the items I'm buying this year, I bought last year as well. So just taking note of that, how much sold in how many days, that's a great tip because Q4 volume is very, very different than it is in September, August. Like
Right.
it's 2-3 times more. And some of the items like the advent calendars will sell 10 times from January to October. And then once it hits December, they've sold 5,000 times. So the volume like really, really changes. So getting your dates down, knowing when you need to be ready and checked in, and getting a feel for how fast stuff is selling in certain categories is really, really important when doing seasonal products.
Yeah, and I mean that even goes for like non-seasonal products. Like
Yeah.
there's a bunch of people, you may be even watching this video, they're like, "Oh, I'll start my Amazon business in January." They don't realize how expensive that mistake is. They're
Yeah.
probably not going to make a ton of money this Q4. Like you can make 10, 20K just starting right now in December.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
that's going to teach you so much, and it's going to cost you like potentially hundreds of thousands for next Q4 because you won't
Yep.
know like Q4 volume and all that kind of stuff. So I would assume in terms of those advent calendars, you're probably ripping those right now, like getting
Oh
some to the
yeah.
warehouse. And yeah,
There's certain stuff that I bought in August, not planning on selling until December
for
because
sure.
certain stuff like that, they're gonna mark it down to a certain price and it just won't be as good of a price anytime close to Christmas because they know they can make a lot more money on it. So one grocery item, for example, I bought for like $8 in August. Now the cheapest you can find it is $20. And that's gonna be selling for 32, $35 when it comes to Christmas time. And I'm not planning on selling until then.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that's kind of an ability that you gain by having capital as well. So
Yeah,
if you're watching this video, you're kind of broke, you got a couple $1,000, probably doesn't make sense to buy and hold. That's the only thing I'll add to that. But like it's
that's very
way more
true.
safe money with the buy and hold is what I've noticed.
100%.
Yeah.
And I do that with a lot of clothes, like cold weather clothing, pants, hoodies, stuff like that, where like almost 100% of the time it's gonna be selling better prices in December and volume in December.
Yeah. Or ever like buying it up in like the spring and then holding it that long. Like are you doing that
I
kind of stuff?
haven't done longer than like 4 months,
Sure.
but that may be something I'd be interested in. It'd probably be like a wholesale deal or something like
Yeah.
that though, where it's like crazy quantity and I'd put it probably on a loan, something along those lines.
Yeah, I haven't seen the prices go like way lower in spring versus just like winter sale, so it probably doesn't
Yeah.
make a lot of sense. That's what some people also buy something and they cut the price to the same sale like way later on,
Yeah.
and you just
Yeah.
held for months for no reason. Yeah, so I want to start kind of maybe wrapping things up a little bit. So going back to the beginning of your Amazon journey, even ecom journey, is there anything that you would change? Is there any like advice through that you would have for somebody getting started today?
Honestly, I wouldn't change anything. The only thing that I even consider changing is not getting into the warehouse. But the thing about that is I know all the systems now and I can look at a prep center and be like, okay, they're doing this right, or okay, they're not doing this right. I know how long it's going to take to get like 4,000 units out the door. I have a lot of experience in that area now, so I know what to look for when looking for a prep center. And I'd say probably that's the only thing I've ever regret or would
For sure.
change. Maybe just getting into wholesale a little bit faster. That's another good one as well, just to like feel it out a little bit. Cause I started it this year. It's probably 35-40% of my business right now. It changes a lot depending on the season. Like after a show like ASD, it's like 50-60%. But coming into Christmas time where I'm doing a lot of like seasonal arbitrage and just getting a lot of big sales happening around now, I'm going to be more lean towards the OA side.
For sure. Yeah. So what are those, there's a lot of people who are wanting to do OA to wholesale. What are those first couple steps that they need need to take to start, dabbling in wholesale a little bit?
Yeah, I'd say the first step for anyone wanting to start wholesale coming from an arbitrage background is go to a trade show. That's still my favorite way to find suppliers. You can talk to them face to face. ASD is a really good place to start. It's a distributor based show. If you go to a show like Expo East or like one where it's very brand like direct, like there's not a lot of distributors there, it's a lot harder to get an account open and actually find profitable inventory. When you go to a show like that, they're going to want you to provide value. You got to optimize their listings, show them how to get rid of unauthorized sellers, stuff like that. But at ASD, if you know what products you're looking for, you can just come to each distributor and say, all right, I want this right here, 1,000 units. I can pay $6 a unit. And it's going to be yes or no. And you can do a lot of quick volume on the spot. It's a great way to meet distributors and build a long-term relationship. And that's where most of my accounts are from, just trade shows.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's the first place we met in real life pretty recently there. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, we've been making some deals with the suppliers we found. So it was super worth it. Like for those of you guys who are trying to land some suppliers there. If people want to kind of reach out to you, through social media, like what benefits have you seen from being an Amazon seller on social media?
Yes, that's honestly huge. Like I wouldn't have gotten into Amazon if friends from the shoe community didn't approach me to start it with them. So making those connections, it's honestly probably doubled the amount of sales that I've done. Like there's certain times where I would have never known to look for a certain sale or product. And I'll just get a text from a friend like, hey, yo, check this out. And boom, just that text alone, making that connection from the past, maybe 20,000 on spot. Like it's crazy how much that can really pay off. Like do as many Zooms with other sellers, calls with other sellers, shoot DMs to the bigger sellers. I've done that a lot. I've shot DMs to 8-figure sellers a good amount. And pretty much every time they've responded to me and given really in-depth answers. So just building a community around you and having like a group of friends to source with will double, triple. It'll do wonders to your business.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same thing for me. Like we were stuck at 30, 40K, started making friends and bang, that Q4 is, almost 200K. Yeah, it's just off to the races after that. Yeah. So you just uploaded one of your first YouTube videos as well. So where can they find you if they want to reach out, start getting some content?
So I am Dylan Sawyer on all social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. I'm starting weekly podcast, Twitter and Instagram. I've been doing daily posts as well. So if you guys have any questions, go shoot me a follow on there, reach out to me. I'll respond to everyone. Any question you got, just hit me up for it. And yeah, give me a follow.
Awesome, for sure. Yeah. So for that guy or girl, they're watching this video, they're trying to make their first sales. They've got $1,000 in sales. What's that one piece of advice that you leave them with?
Go hit the Nike outlet, scan everything in the store, and get anything that's profitable. That's how I started to get my first inventory on Amazon. It's best to do retail arbitrage at the start. You see the product, you have it on hand immediately, and you can ship it out or list it merchant fulfilled that exact same day. So it's good if you want to cycle your money and grow your capital quickly.
For sure. I was definitely underrating retail arbitrage. I've been doing it a little bit recently, just kind of for fun, making some videos. It actually is very, very lucrative. Like, I've been sleeping on it. So yeah, get after it, guys. Really appreciate you hopping on the channel, Sawyer.
Yeah.
You guys should definitely go check him out on socials. Go watch that YouTube video he uploaded. Really appreciate you guys watching this video as well. Let us know if you have any questions, comments. Feel free to drop those down below. Hit the like button, subscribe, all that stuff for the YouTube algo. And I really appreciate you guys watching this video, and I will see you next time.
Thank you, bro.